operation we have, we're running mama cows. We've got about 200 mama cows right now. We also have about 80 hogs, the large black hogs. The reason we have those are because they don't root the grass up. We have sheep and goats, and we also do background stocking on calves. In the last last 3 years, we've worked with NRCS. We've done fencing. We've done about 75,000 feet of fencing. We've done about 30,000 feet of water lines, put the water tanks in, some stream crossings. NRCS also helped us with a feed lot with manure storage. So with having all those things done, now we can rotational graze. We have about 45 paddocks, averaging about 40 acres per paddock. Each of those paddocks have high strand electric on top of the woven wire fence, so that we can split off of each end of those paddocks. We can size that down to however small we want to size it down to. Our paddocks are different, varying sizes, so we don't really have a set time. Our goal is to continue to make those paddocks smaller and smaller, and our moving time quicker and quicker. But we're just getting started into this. In the last couple of years, we went from basically running cattle over 650 acres completely to the point now that we have the 45 paddocks, and now we can continue to size that down even more as time goes on. We've already seen that it changes the diversity of plant species in the ground. It's quite amazing. What you see is because things will start growing that you don't even plant the seed for it. It just changes the makeup of the forage. It goes from tall forage to more of a shorter forage. You have more legumes that are growing out of it, and recovery time is half of the time or even less. If you can just graze half of it or so and then move the cattle on. And what we're doing now is, with the corn, the silage, the feedstocks that we mix up on the farm, we will feed that out, and even before wintertime seriously gets here, because that will allow our fescue, our stockpiles, to grow during this September, October months. And then that way we can have even more forage to make it through the wintertime. Last year, we didn't put any hay out at all until the second week of February. The second week of February last year, we had 5 degree below snow and really bad weather. That was about the time we started running low on forage. Or this year, we're hoping to basically go throughout the whole winter with grass, and we'll supplement that along with our silage. We also, another thing we've done is we've started growing corn, chopping corn, and putting that in a silage pit. We feel like that's a much better method of feeding through the winter versus hay. You get so much more tonnage off of the corn. We have found already that by doing some of these things like the corn and the rotational grazing, we've already found that our pastures are doing better. And we found that it's a good mix to have the mama cows, and of course we wean off our calves and we put those through the stocker program, and we'll mix our own feed. We'll mix gluten, soybean meal, and silage, all these things together, and feed off our stocker calves that we've grown ourselves. And then we'll add in calves that we buy off the market and get truckload sales that way, so we can have a good sale out of our stock. Our hogs, we're just now getting enough of the hogs to start selling those, but we're going to sell the hogs as a grass-fed product. They'll bring a little more money by doing that. Even with our cow calves, we've bought in bulls that are genetically chosen for production off of grass. So we'll sell them to a particular market that's a grass-fed market. We got support from NRCS and financial and technical support through NRCS and the TDA and the Claiborne County Conservation Services. They've been very instrumental in helping us with our fencing, our waterers, stream crossing, well and spring development, and we built a feedlot, and behind that feedlot they assisted us in a manure storage facility. That way we can feed our animals all through the winter without having to worry about the manure. But the manure is critical, very critical, because now we're using that manure to make compost. As a matter of fact, we're actually looking at making the compost on a commercial production scale. We're going to take the compost, and then local businesses that produce wood chips and sawdust, we've got an off-site lot that we're going to be putting those materials together and then put that back onto our crops. This year we've done a test with corn. We had 3 fields of corn. One of those 3 fields, we didn't put in any fertilizer on that field. We put fertilizer on 2 of the fields and no fertilizer on 1 of them. We used only compost, and we've got the results. We're going to have that analyzed so we can see the difference of the nutrients that are in that corn. But the corn that we produced grew just as tall, just as thick, just as green. Done a very good job with just the compost. Web Flowers, that works along with NRCS, has been very instrumental in a lot of different things. Almost any question that I have, I can present that to Webb, and he will come, and even like the design and layout of our cattle handling facility, he helped us design and lay that out. He helped us with building our feedlot and our manure storage facility. Helped us tremendously with giving us the resources that we need through other people, other studies that have been done. He has provided the types of seed, when to plant them, how to plant them, to get the results that have been very beneficial for our grazing. Seed, I think, is just as important, if not even more important, than the compost. The compost will help you get started and take your ground from being poor ground. We started off on this farm with the majority of it was woodland, and we had to convert that from woodland to pasture land. When we put the compost on, that's just a quicker way to get your ground in good shape. But you can actually do that either by putting down seed, and preferably a variety of seed, and not just one, but maybe 5 or 8 or 10 or even more different types of seed. And by doing that, we've seen a lot of success in the growth of our the water retention, the regrowth after we've grazed on the pastures. Well, we done an organic matter test on a field that we just had timbered, and it was 2%. We came back 2 years later after putting the seed down and rotational grazing on that property, and that land had increased to 3.5% organic matter. To our surprise, we were pleasantly shocked that overall the farm on average was 5% organic matter, which, if you know anything about the organic matter, that means that you're going to retain a tremendous amount more water that falls on that ground and be extremely beneficial. The seed that we put down was a combination of the 2 that I like really the best are the radish and turnips. Radish and turnips are super good because they get down into the ground, and when they're in the ground, they provide the excides for the microbes to feed off of. But then we also planted plantain and legumes. And the thing we're trying to do with our cornfield or any crop field is to, as soon as we can chop our corn, we get the corn off of it, and we immediately get these legumes and brassicas put right back into the field so that we're feeding those microbes. You know, I could say, well, we grew our corn with no fertilizer, and a lot of people say, well, you can't do that. Well, we did do it, and a lot of people say, well, you can maybe do it for 2 or 3 years, and then your ground's going to play out. Well, Gabe Brown has been doing it with no fertilizer since 2002. We're wanting to mimic what he's doing. I just saw a video just the other day of a guy that's he understands that the resources of the world are not infinite. They are a finite resource, and we've seen oil prices go high before. Eventually they will go high again. But he went into even more detail than that, as to the fact that if you continue to put fertilizer on your crops are going to become more and more dependent on that fertilizer. You're actually growing the nutrients out of the ground, and you're having to rely on the fertilizer to supplement the nutrients that goes into the plants. A couple of things are wrong with that. One thing that majorly is wrong with that is if you don't have the proper organic matter in your soil, then your plants can be 3 to 6 times less nutritious than if they had the organic matter in the soil. So that's one of the things that this compost can help you do, is to get that organic matter back into your soil. So hopefully our goal is to be able to sell that to other farmers, so the farmers in this community can become more or less sustainable. You don't have to have the fertilizer, and when you do grow it with the compost and you get the right organic matter in there, then it can be 3 to 6 times more nutritious than it would be with the fertilizer. And your fertilizer is going to play out in maybe 60 to 120 days, and your compost is going to actually be better the second year and even the third year than it was the first year. So you may put it down 2 or 3 years. After that, if you can keep a cover crop down and you keep your cattle or your animals rotational grazed, then you don't have to put anything down on it. It can sustain itself, and we as farmers have forgot that.